When a lone man heard a pitiful moan echoing through the forest, he thought it was just another animal in trouble. But what he found was a small, trembling puppy that seemed desperate for help. Little did he know, saving this dog would unleash a nightmare unlike anything he had ever imagined. The morning air was cool, crisp, and still. Officer Jake had grown accustomed to the peaceful, rhythmic nature of his morning patrol. The sun was just rising, casting a golden hue over the dense woods that bordered the small town. Birds sang their familiar songs overhead, and the gentle rustle of leaves filled the silence as he walked along the rugged trail. The gravel crunched softly beneath his boots, each step echoing in the quiet woods. It was the kind of morning that made you believe nothing could go wrong. Jake had been on patrol for nearly an hour, his mind wandering from one thought to the next. He'd checked the usual spots, nothing unusual. Just another peaceful walk, just another day. He'd walked this same trail countless times, his job feeling more like a routine than an adventure. As he moved deeper into the woods, he felt a sense of calm wash over him, almost as if he were part of the very landscape around him. But something felt different this time, a subtle shift in the air. It was hard to pinpoint, but it made the hairs on the back of Jake's neck stand up. He paused, scanning the area ahead. The woods were still, but there was something else, something waiting, lurking, just out of sight. Jake didn't know it yet, but today would be anything but routine. Jake took another step forward, his boots crunching against the gravel, and that's when he heard it, a soft sound, almost imperceptible, like something small was moving through the underbrush. At first, he thought it might just be a bird or the wind rustling through the leaves. But then, there it was again, a soft whimper, followed by a moan that sent a shiver down his spine. The sound wasn't normal. It wasn't the usual calls of the forest. He froze, his senses heightened, and turned to look behind him. His eyes scanned the dense trees, the shadows creeping in as the morning sun fought to break through. It was then he saw it, a tiny figure in the distance. It was a dog, a German Shepherd puppy, barely bigger than a loaf of bread, sitting in the middle of the trail. Its eyes were wide, filled with fear, and its fur was matted with dirt and mud. The little creature looked up at Jake, its body trembling, tail limp and tucked under. Jake instinctively knelt down, his hand reaching out slowly toward the pup. "Hey there, buddy," he said softly, trying not to startle the dog. "Where did you come from?" But the pup didn't move. It stayed where it was, watching him cautiously with eyes full of both fear and curiosity. There was something haunting about the look in the dog's eyes, as if it had been through something unimaginable. The puppy let out another soft whine, almost as if it were pleading for help. Jake's heart clenched. He had to help it. But something told him there was more to this than a simple lost dog. Something was wrong. Jake took a deep breath and, with slow, deliberate movements, stood up. He reached his hand out again, this time with more confidence, but still cautious, not wanting to frighten the fragile puppy. The little creature was trembling, its body coated in a layer of dirt, the fur along its back matted from who knew how many days of wandering or hiding. The deep, soulful eyes of the pup locked with his, and for a moment, Jake hesitated, wondering what could have happened to it. The pup didn't flinch or run away. It just stayed there, eyes never leaving Jake, waiting for something. Jake's heart softened as he crouched down again, this time lowering himself to the pup's level. The dog's body quivered with each breath, and its fur looked soiled with dirt and mud. He could tell the little one had been through more than its fair share of hardships. "You're a tough one, huh?" Jake murmured, offering a small, reassuring smile. Carefully, Jake slid his hands under the dog's small body. The puppy didn't resist, but there was a noticeable reluctance in the way it shifted. As he lifted the dog, he could feel its ribs, a sign of neglect or hunger. Jake knew he needed to get it to safety soon. He adjusted his grip to make the dog more comfortable and began walking back along the trail. The puppy stayed limp in his arms, its eyes still locked onto his, but something felt different. There was an unsettling feeling that Jake couldn't shake. As he walked, the puppy began to whimper quietly, looking around as if it were searching for something. Jake couldn't help but wonder if it was just the pup's natural fear or if it was something more. Why was it acting so strangely? What was it trying to tell him? The nagging sense of urgency in the dog's gaze only deepened Jake's unease, but he pushed the thought aside, focusing on getting the animal to safety. At this point, he knew he couldn't just leave it out here alone. The bond between them was already forming, and he was determined to see it through. Jake had walked for a few more minutes, cradling the puppy carefully, when something began to feel off. The air, which had once been fresh and crisp, now seemed to thicken, growing heavier with every step. The forest, which had always felt welcoming, now felt like it was closing in on him. The birds had stopped singing, and even the wind seemed to have paused. The only sound was the soft rustling of leaves underfoot and the quiet whimpering of the dog in his arms. But the whimpers, which had started out as signs of distress, were slowly turning into something else, a low, almost eerie growl. Jake's heart rate quickened as he glanced down at the pup. Its eyes were still wide, but now they seemed more intense, as if it were looking right through him. The dog's body, once limp and trembling, was now tense, its muscles coiled, its small form stiffening as if preparing for something. Jake's stomach tightened. This wasn't the behavior of a scared puppy. It was as though the dog was warning him of something he couldn't yet see. The little German shepherd started to shift in his arms, its head swiveling as if trying to look at something behind them. The growl grew louder, deeper, and Jake felt the hair on the back of his neck stand on end. His grip on the dog tightened instinctively, but he felt unease creeping into his chest. The puppy, once so helpless, was now acting as though it were on high alert, its body vibrating with tension. And then, as if on cue, the puppy let out a sharp, low growl, its teeth bared for the first time. The sudden shift caught Jake off guard. This wasn't just a frightened animal, it was a warning. A wave of dread washed over him. Something wasn't right. The strange behavior, the urgency in the pup's eyes, the sudden growls, it all felt wrong. But Jake didn't know why or what was causing it. Still, he couldn't ignore the feeling that they were being watched, or that something was about to happen, something far darker than he had ever expected. Jake's pulse began to race. As the puppy's growl deepened, and before he could react, the little dog suddenly twisted in his arms. It was as if the innocent creature he had been holding had been replaced by something else. The dog's eyes were no longer just fearful. They were filled with something dark, predatory. Jake staggered back, his breath catching in his throat. As the puppy wriggled free from his hold, its tiny body squirming with an unnatural strength. The dog's posture shifted, its back arched, its teeth bared in a snarl that was terrifying for such a small animal. The once innocent puppy now stood before him like an entirely different creature. The air seemed to grow colder, the woods eerily silent except for the vicious growls that echoed in the distance. Jake's eyes widened. What was happening? This wasn't a scared pup anymore. This was something else, something that seemed possessed. Before Jake could step back, the puppy lunged at him, snapping its jaws just inches from his hand. It was fast, too fast for such a small creature. In that moment, Jake realized with horror that this dog was not the same one he had found moments ago. Something had changed. Something terrifying was unfolding right in front of him, and he was powerless to stop it. His heart pounded in his chest. Whatever was going on, Jake was caught in the middle of it now, and he wasn't sure he could get out. Jake staggered back, heart racing, as the puppy's snarls filled the air. His instincts screamed at him to run, but his feet felt like they were glued to the ground. The small dog, once a symbol of helplessness, now looked like a vicious predator. Its eyes were wild, pupils dilated, and its growls grew louder with every second that passed. Jake's breath caught in his throat as he watched the puppy move with a terrifying precision, its eyes never leaving him, its body coiled in preparation for another attack. He quickly realized that running wasn't an option. If he made any sudden movements, the dog would attack. He needed to think. There was something off about this situation. He had no idea what had changed in that brief moment, but it was clear now that the pup had become something other than what it appeared. In a desperate attempt to protect himself, Jake slowly reached for his radio, his hands shaking. He needed backup, and fast. But just as his fingers brushed the device, the dog froze, its body tense and still. The growling stopped. Jake's stomach twisted. For a moment, he thought he might be able to make a break for it, but the dog's stare didn't soften. It became even more intense, as if daring him to move. Something wasn't right, and Jake knew. He wouldn't be able to escape it unless he got answers. But who could help him now?